Welcome in. Today we are going to be talking about Artosis, and let's talk about how he's naturally a hermit and people can see him doing what he's naturally good at and being a hermit. He doesn't really enjoy, being out there. He'd rather be hidden away from the drama, doing his own thing. And he's going to be called out doing his own thing because people can see him doing it. And when they ask him how do you do that, he may not even be able to answer, and that makes him a little bit more uncomfortable. And he wants to retreat more because of it. So he knows though that his network is where his opportunities are at, and he's here to penetrate his network with the things that he's great at. The type of environment that he needs to be in order to be successful is that in which where a person can research, get the grounding beneath their feet, get to know the thing that they want to know about before they do have to externalize it to their network. And the type of people that he needs around him in order to be successful are role models. So, wise beings, people who have seen what has come and what has gone, and they know what is coming. So, he needs those types of beings who understand that sometimes you just need some space and time to lick off the wounds of what has happened in the past. I wonder if he's a shocking being because it shows us here that he is. And it quite possibly could be a lot of who he is, to be shocked or to be shocking. But he does know where to go to get those contracts signed. And he also does have a lot of ambition. He is also a person who has vitality, and he does know what is worth risk taking. His values shine brightly as well. And what makes him grounded in life is his intuition. So that is what makes him grounded. Also, what makes him grounded in life is beginnings. So let's talk about that. He is a person who wants to start things, is grounded in beginnings, not necessarily finishing stuff. And he wants to talk about, he wants to start new things all the time. And when he is doing that, he needs to take one step in front of the other instead of trying to do everything at once, all experiences at the same time, because it's just going to be a watered down version of what it was supposed to be. And you know what? He very well may not know where to land all of those experiences that he wants to start. So, starting new experiences ground him. Wow. So that could cause a dilemma. How? Because the dilemma being that he might want to prove. Want to prove what? That he's a good guy, that he can go harder, better, faster, stronger without asking, or wants to prove the being good guy without making any ripples. Avoiding confrontation and truth. That is another dilemma, avoiding confrontation or truth. Another dilemma that he might face is that he may not know what to think, or may not know what to see as inspirational, or may not know what may not know what questions to answer, and it may just absorb all of his time because he may prove or try to prove that he is an inspirational being, and then that he can be that person with the mask that he's created. So those are all dilemmas that you could see in his life. And he also might find himself burnt out just by trying to finish projects that he's started, because people are, you know, probably shaming him into finishing them, which is going to cause burnout. It's going to cause frustration. It's going to cause all of this emotion that you just don't want. So, him being this vitality kind of person who has ambition, he might also appear to be like a stick in the mud because he's able to sit there and be this determined being who is very much concentrating, focusing, still like a mountain. So he doesn't need to move much, and a lot of people envy the fact that he can just sit there and focus. But when I say need to move, I want to emphasize that movement is important to this particular person, Artosis. Um, Something that happens around Artosis, and he's quite um, conscious of it, is that there's a lot of firsts that happen around him. Um, he's used to it, but the people around him aren't. And when something poggers happens, everyone's like, yo, that's amazing. But usually his values are there, and he'll be like, oh, you guys, I'm going to be a nice person and be bashful and be like, oh, I'm just trying to be a little bit inspirational. Or I kid. Um, so I wonder if when people get around him in his physical presence, if they feel centered or they feel like they're safe in his presence. Um, he really does understand in the moment what is correct for him, or and he should really understand what his body's telling him, moving him away from things like shuddering or just being like, ugh. Those are all indications of what he should and shouldn't be doing. That is what he should be making commitments with, because I'm sure sometimes in the heat of the moment he wakes up and he's like, oh, why the crap did I commit to that? And he ends up doing it anyways to be the good guy. Um, Another thing that we could talk about is how he is here to be an archetype. He is an archetype of being a powerful being on how he does it his way. And I'm sure a lot of people recognize him and understand him to be a very particular way, because he's going to follow his convictions no matter what. What he does will keep him alive and safe and healthy. And as he perfects his form, people may just line up and be a good community or a good set of kids, or, whatever might need to be set up as like in good behavior. It's possibly going to happen around him. Now, he may feel lost in a group, or he may feel like he doesn't have much to contribute to a group. Let's talk about how this is literally called the freak to genius. People are going to see him as a freak until he's a genius. And maybe people did see him as like, oh my God, why are you playing StarCraft so much, until he was a genius within it and people recognize him and his ideas within the realm of StarCraft. And yeah, he may flop back to that freak position, but people see him as a genius now within what he does. But he's going to he's going to move through all of that with caution. So, although he's going to be a very shocking being, he's going to do it with caution while knowing which contracts are out there to be signed, how to get to the head of the table, while still instilling values as this ambitious, vitality ridden person who knows how to take risk at what moment, because at that moment will be correct for him. And just because it's correct for him in that moment, it doesn't necessarily mean it's correct for everybody else around him. So he needs to really check in with the people around him with what's correct for them or not. So he does have this very fixed way in which he does improve his environment and this physical being around him. He does know when enough's enough, and he does have this consistent way of accepting and denying support and that in which no longer serves him. He does have this particular way that he puts himself out into the world and how he does process the things that he thinks. So he assimilates things, he has these insights, and he structures them. He is a thinker. He is this person who is here to have such unique experiences. He is a very probably misunderstood being. He's so unique and individual. Um, he's actually probably melancholic a lot of the time too, because that's a lot of what makes him up as a person, is these melancholic type of experiences. But I'm not a doctor, so if he is melancholic, he should definitely make sure that he goes and sees the doctor about that. But that's where a little bit of the stick in the mud can be coming from too, is the fact that he always probably feels this some form of melancholy, and how does he get out of it? The only way to get out of it is just by being. His next creative phase will come, and then he will no longer be melancholic. But then he will be, because there's other places that exist that he's melancholic. But when he is doing himself, he is going to be inspirational. He is going to be empowering and self-empowering, and also needs to remember that if he's in the presence of people, that if he's being a teacher, that those people may not be so empowered when they leave his presence, because they felt so comfy, cozy, empowered, self-empowered, and inspired, that when they leave his presence, that it all just might fall away. Not because they don't believe in him anymore or don't feel those ways around about him anymore, but it's just, that's the type of feeling that you would get from him from being in his presence.